All right, so I'm going to talk about 5 different types of React components. And so this is kind of, this is something that I was kind of like thinking about. I am like pretty dumb. And so like really dense. And it takes me a really long time to like learn common things. So I wasn't like classically trained in like computer science and all that. I just kind of like picked this stuff up, you know, like HTML, CSS, a little bit of JavaScript, and that's where I am right now. I know a couple of things. So like you read about, you start learning React, and like there's just all of these like really amazingly smart computer sciencey people working on these things, and you read these posts and you're like, I am super dumb. Because like everyone seems to know what these things are, and like I don't. So now that I know a little bit about a couple things, I kind of wanted to like do like an experimental talk where I talk about like the shape of something before the technical part of it. So like a lot of these things, once I understood like the shape and like how these things kind of interact together and the timing of them all and like what works with what and what doesn't, everything was a lot easier, and I could remember and I could like work better. So these are 5 patterns that will help you to be a more productive React developer and be able to just kind of decipher the blog posts that you read. So we're going to start with this. Now I need a little bit of help from y'all. This is not a trick. I'm not like trying to trick you. I just need a little bit of help. What shape is this? Circle. Excellent. Okay. What shape is this? It's a little bit different.
Smaller circle.
Small circle. That's right. Okay. What do we have here?
Target.
We have a small circle in a circle. Yes. 2 circles, a target kind of. I'm going to go with small circle in circle. All right. This one gets a little tricky. What do we got? A nipple. Yeah, that's true. A little ring of fire around the outside. Oh man, oh man. So we have a small circle in a dotted circle, or a nipple with a ring of fire. Okay, last one. This is our 5th pattern. It is a small circle in, what does that look like? Dash circle in a circle, okay? So we have small circle and a dash circle in a circle. How many times can I say circle tonight? Okay, so we're gonna start with circle. When you install React for the first time, you don't get a lot, you get a circle. You get this one thing, you get a circle, and this is a component. A component is a circle. It's the one thing that you get when you like npm install React. And that circle comes with a bunch of like stuff, like API stuffed into it. So it like renders stuff, you like can deal with props and context and state and like lifecycle events. Now, one of the first things that I learned when learning React was that there was kind of this arbitrary separation of components. So you only have the one thing, but there was kind of a line drawn down the middle where some components would only use a certain subset of the API, and then other components would use the like converse subset or whatever. So like you would divide the APIs in half, and then like one type of component uses half of it, and the other type of component uses the other half. And if you've read any of the blog posts about React, these are kind of called like smart or dumb components, or like container and presentation components, or controller and view components, or data and display components. They go by a lot of different names, and so I'm sticking with circle and small circle. So the circle is one that's like totally capable of using like all of the API, but it only uses the stateful, like state and lifecycle events. And the small circle just uses render, props, and context. Okay, and so like one way to think of these is that the circle is a stateful component, and the small circle is a stateless component because it doesn't use any of the state APIs. Okay, so circle and small circle from here on out, maybe, I don't know. Okay, so those are our first 2 components. I'll go back. So one is circle, only uses half of the API. Small circle uses the other half. So that's 1 and 2. We're 2 down. We only have 3 more to go. Okay, so the second one that we looked at was small circle and circle, right? So like, hold up, I just put those back together. Like, this is ridiculous. Like, I just took all the time to separate them, and now I'm putting them back together. So we had one circle, we divided it into two, and then we said, like, somehow they're different, and then we put them back together, like WTF. What are we doing here? So that's an excellent question. Like, why did we put these things back together? What did we get by separating the two? So the cool thing that happens, like, when we separate the two is that we can make big circles with the same small circle inside of it. So we can have a small circle and a gray circle. We can have a small circle and a green circle. We can have a small circle and a red circle, a small circle and a blue circle. We can have any type of outside big circle that we want around this same small circle. So we can reuse small circle. And that's actually like a really big win because we only have to write small circle one time, and then we can use it in our app like as many times as we want by putting other circles around it. So small circle and circle. This is a very important pattern. So now we'll start to look at some code. Like, what does this look like? So this is the whole thing. This is small circle and small circle. Okay, so let's start with small circle. Small circle is very simple. This is a component. It's just a function called small circle. It takes some props, and then it returns a React element that uses those props. Okay, like super simple. Now let's look at small circle and circle. So this is the big outside circle. And this one, as we've talked about, it uses the state APIs. So it's got some state on there. I didn't have enough room to like actually show like life cycle events, but this could use the life cycle events as well to get that state. And then it renders small circle with that state. So it says, I have the state, I'm going to give it to you. I know what you need to render, so I'm going to give it to you. So that's it. So this is small circle and circle. This is our third component. Now this type of component usually goes by the name of a container component. I don't think that has a like very contested name. I think everyone just calls them a container component. Now this, like, burn this into your mind because this is the third and like part of the last four. Everything that we're going to talk about today is in service of this relationship right here, like a big component around like a small component that just like, takes data and like spits it out to a screen. So this is only half a solution though, right? So we were able to kind of keep the one small component, but like we're not able to like reuse the circles, right? Because all of those have to know which component they're rendering. They're all rendering small component. So I want to be able to reuse both circles. So that seems like a reasonable request. How can we use both circles? How can we just kind of like have like this, like big circles and small circles and jam them together whenever we need them? Everybody do that. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. It's probably a lawsuit waiting to happen. So we're going to talk about number 4, our fourth component. Can you believe it? We're already up to number 4. It's only been 7 minutes. Okay, so number 4. So this is our dotted line, or circle, small circle and dotted line. So what does this even do? Okay, so this is what it looks like. Okay, that's all. It looks, I mean, honestly, pretty similar to the last one, except we have like a little bit more going on. So let's look at that little bit more. So this outer dotted circle on the outside, that is a function. Okay, so the circles with the solid lines, they've been components all this time, but this one is a function. Okay, and this dotted circle function, it takes any circle as an argument. So here in like the bottom of our code, so we have a circle. We have a small circle, which we've been using all this time. And so we're going to pass small circle into dotted circle and see what happens. So we call dotted circle with small circle, and then like right now, let's just assume that it returns it. Okay, it doesn't. It's going to do some funky stuff. It's actually going to like on the fly make a big circle for us. So it's going to, instead of returning just our component, it returns a big circle with our component jammed in the middle of it. So like I got a function, and I'm like, hey function, here's my small circle, and it says, I got something for you. I got your small circle, but I'm gonna put a big circle around it. So we end up with our same small circle in circle component, right? And so we can use this anywhere we want. So we have small circle in circle. So this is our container component, right? But it was like dynamically created. We were able to use a function to like reuse both parts. Said, here's my small component, jam it in a big component. Here's my small component, jam it in a big component. So what's the name of this? Anyone have a guess of what the name of this is? Anyone like kind of tracking with maybe what kind of pattern this is? Yeah, that's right. Nice work. Higher order component. Also known as an enhancer component, because like it's kind of like contested, like which part of it is like the higher order, like what? Because it's not really like, I don't know, it's weird. It's really a function. Okay, so this allows us to mix and match. We're like, we got our small circle, our circle, jam them into each other. So we're into our fifth and final one. Now, we have kind of like a similar thing going on. We still, if you look, you can see the container component in there. And then last time our kind of perforated circle was a function. Okay, so now the function has moved from the outside to the inside. All right, let's look at this last of the 5 patterns. So here's all the code for this pattern. Let's break it down. All right, so at the bottom you can see that this is kind of like where we're like using it. So we're like using circle. And the top is where it's defined. So this is like kind of interesting. We actually have circle just as like this standalone class. It's like not in a function. It's just kind of like standalone. So this looks, pretty similar to the other ones. It has that same state signature. It could go use lifecycle events to fetch state and re-render and all that stuff. But it gets different right around here. This part's a little bit weird. So instead of rendering another component, it actually calls a function. So its render method calls a function, and it calls it with state. And if you look at where we're using the component, we're actually providing that function that we want to render with on props. And so then we kind of have that function, we receive state, and then we do something with it. Well, we're going to render out small component. We have our small circle. We have our circle, and we know what to do with it. So we're going to take the state, and we're going to like render small circle, and we're going to just put our state right on it. And that's pretty much it. Now this one's actually kind of cool because if you look at the way that that's written, this section on the bottom, the small circle and circle example here actually looks a lot like the kind of like visual representation of the pattern, where you have your circle, inside of it you have the dashed function, and then the small circle. So this is a really interesting pattern. So then again, you end up with a small circle and circle container component. Now, this is a really interesting pattern because it's been around for a long time, obviously, just like all of these things. But it's really started to kind of come into light again with so like React Motion uses this. The latest version of React Router uses this like exclusively to render your routes. So knowing this pattern buys you into a lot of really cool libraries. So this pattern is called the component with render callbacks. So it gets so you provide on props these functions that are going to be used to render components with state. So we did it. We're at the end. We got our 5 components. We have a stateful component, our circle. We have a stateless component, our small circle. We have a container component, which is the 2 jammed back together again. We have a higher order component, which is a function wrapped around the circle that takes a small circle as an argument and then stuffs it right inside. And we have a component with render callbacks, which is a component that takes a function, that calls that function with state, and then boop, gives you an opportunity to render a component right inside, a small circle right inside of it. And all of these are in service of this idea of container components. So when you're reading up tonight, like if you need to just pick one of these, Read up about container components, because all of these are going to result into the same thing. So this is a good place to start. I am Chantastic, and I just put online a new video course at learnreact.com, and it's free until I have the time to figure out how to charge for it. So now is a good time for y'all to watch that. Anyway, that's it. Thanks for listening.